Okay, so good afternoon to everyone. So today's session is about publishing research. So if I take introduction to my session, like research is what leads us to the evolution. Like all these technical evolution happen because of numerous researches that has been done throughout the previous eras. But if all these things were not properly documented, then we might not be able to use any of these techniques nowadays. So that is why publishing or communicating what you do in a research is very important. So nowadays, when it comes to publishing research, we are mainly focusing on publishing them in journals or conferences or as some short survey articles, letters. So there are multiple ways how we can communicate our findings to the scholarly community. So today's session, I will focus on journal articles and how we need to determine what is the most suitable article, why we need to select this, and what are the other aspects that we have to consider when we are trying to publish an article. So at this point, I am on the assumption that we have an article that has been already done. We have already completed writing and completed experiments, but now we are at the stage of uh, trying to submit it to a journal. With that base, I'll move on to the session. Okay. Right. So today in this workshop, I'm going to discuss these few things: the journal selection strategy, Scopus metrics, deep dive. We need to know about Scopus metrics because we are most of the time now targeting Scopus journals. But if we don't know how to determine the best Scopus index journal, then that's going to be an issue. So I'll briefly describe about these Scopus metrics and how to interpret these metrics and what are the existing publishing models and how at the end we are going to determine what is the most suitable journal or the destination for our work. So these are the things I'm going to cover today. Okay. So in journal selection, generally what we do is first, when we are writing an article, it is very important to identify what is the key area or the key domain of the article that it fits for. Now, most of the time, people pay very less attention to the keyword section of the article. But I would say that is not the way. You need to have careful formulation of these keywords because these keywords are the ones that are used to index your publication once it is published in a journal. But if you use some keywords arbitrarily, what happens is then that actually reduces the possibility of getting your work cited. Now, why getting it cited is important? Because when the work is cited by other scholars only, it improves the reputation of your work. So it improves the reputation of your profile. Imagine if you have 100+ journal articles and you have citations like below 10 or 20 for that 100+ articles, that really raises a question. Does your work value that much, or have you received any value from other scholars in the domain? Maybe not because your work is not good, maybe because the keywords are not defined properly because these act as the indexing factor for search when someone else search through the search engines, these keywords act as the indexing factor. So defining the scope or identifying the scope and defining keywords for your article is very important. And once you define that one, then we move on to this place of determining what would be the most suitable type of journal. Now, I would share some of my experiences here. Now, once the article is completed, what we do is normally uh, there are a lot of databases available. In each publisher also you have different databases. So we go search and find for, or we do filtering and find for suitable journals. So there you might find 10, 15 journals. Now, nowadays, we can also use ChatGPT and other AI tools as well. What we can do is we can state the broad idea of the study and then get some recommendations from the AI tools as well. So that is one way. Now, if the way that we did previously was like scrolling through the Excels and finding out the journals, but we don't have to bother like that. Even if you go to Elsevier publisher, the whole list comes out. So you can select the subject area and identify. Or if you go to Scopus database, the categorization can be either by the title, subject area, publisher. You can filter and get the journals. So once you identify key journals that might fit for your work, then what we need to do is we need to analyze these journal pages very carefully. That is very important. Just by looking at a journal, we can't say, okay, we are going to submit to this journal. Why? Because each of these journals, they have separate aims and scope. Although the name says something, the actual journal aim might be different from the message that is given from the title of the journal, right? So, for example, let's say, I would say IEEE Access. Now, I'm giving examples from my domain. So if I say the name is IEEE, title is IEEE Access, can we get any idea about what sort of papers are getting accepted in this journal? Can we get any idea about what sort of papers are accepted by this journal? Impossible. If this is the first time you're hearing about this journal, you can't imagine what sort of papers that we need to submit. So how are we going to determine whether it is suitable for our work or not? We need to scan the journal's page and identify what are their journal aims and scope. After reading through aims and scope, then we might feel like, okay, this is partially fitting with the aims and scope, or this is far from the aims of the journal, or we can say, okay, this is something that really matches with my work. So this is a critical point that all the researchers need to do. The thing is, now we spend a lot of time preparing manuscripts and other documents before the submission. But if we do not examine these things properly and submit the article, and soon after they might say, okay, it does not match with the aims and scope. This is not the only case that the editor might send you a mail saying, okay, the article is or the work is not matching with aims and scope. Although aims and scope is mentioned and that is matching with your work, but still over the few years that might be evolved slightly towards something else. So that is why here I would suggest read the aims and scope and also refer to articles of that same journal. If you decide, okay, I'm going to submit to this particular journal, read articles from 1 or 2 years back from the same journal. Then you can see, okay, AIM says something, but the journals are not that much relevant. Why? Because they have evolved the journal into a different sub-area. So you need to make sure the work that you're planning to submit matches with journal aims and scope, as well as it stands out with the other recent articles as well. Okay, so the next step would be make sure whether the journal that you have selected is having the proper indexing and whether it fits to the quality criteria that we need to achieve. And after that, you can finalize the target journal. Okay. Right. Now one might think, okay, why metrics matter? Why metrics matter? Any ideas? It would be better if this is interactive. Can someone say why metric matters? Do we really need to bother about these metrics? Or we can simply say, okay, whatever the journal that fits in the scope, the indexing of Scopus, we don't mind, we can submit. No, metrics actually matters. Why? Because it always tells something about the journal. It always tells us something about the journal. It gives the journal level of influence. This level of influence, it actually enhances the visibility of your work. Now imagine we do a marvelous research and without much bother, because we are not bothered about the metrics and the indexing, we simply submit it to a conference. Imagine a scenario, we have a good work, we just want a publication as fast as possible. So what we do, we simply publish it in a conference, or we simply publish it in a journal without bothering about the indexing, site score, impact factor, nothing. Then, whenever that work is published, if some another scholar comes who works in the same area as us, they might come across that work. They might feel it as impressive as well, but the journal is not reputed or the conference is not reputed. In that case, they might feel like, okay, I'm not going to cite this one. I'm not going to cite this work because it's not published in a reputed destination. So that happens if we do not bother about these metrics. So that's why it's very important to think about metrics as well, because it actually affects the research visibility. And also now in SLIIT also we need to publish Scopus Index Journal. So that publication actually matters for the promotions, the rankings, not only in SLIIT, in any university, in any academic field, any institution, that happens. And also, this metrics, it also gives us highlighted points about or the facts that we need to think about the submission strategy that we need to follow. So this is why it is very important to consider about metrics when you're planning to submit a journal article to a particular journal. So just do not submit it blindly to any journal. Do this process. It might take a few days, but still it works. So that effort actually improves the visibility of your work and the recognition of your work. Okay. All right. Now I mentioned about site scope. So what is this site scope? Has any of you come across this term, site scope? I'm pretty sure this is not the first time, but anyway. Okay. Can you see the screen, the browser page? Is the browser page visible? Okay. Yes. So this is the Scopus database. So in Scopus database, you have a tab called sources. There is a tab called sources. From this tab, you can find all Scopus index journals or conferences that are indexed under Scopus. So imagine you want to find about a particular journal. Let's say I'm looking for sustainable cities and society. I'm looking for this journal. So here it comes, and then you can see it indicates a site scope. It indicates a site scope and indicates a percentile and indicates the number of citations and documents. Now let's see what is this site scope. So this site score, how they calculate it is like from the total number of citations that that particular journal received throughout last 4 years divided by the number of documents in last 4 years. So obviously a higher site score, it means there are more average number of citations. What is the indication of that? The articles of this journal are tend to be cited by scholars in the domain. Now, one other thing is, when it comes to this site score, that is normally coming under a particular area. That's particularly coming under an area. So if you take this journal, Sustainable Cities and Societies, so it indicates for 2024, how many citations are there, how many documents were there. From that, you get the site score. That means more number of papers are getting average, a good average number of citations. So if this is low, that means although there are more papers, the number of citations they get are less. So there is a category that it involves. So here the quartile 99 is coming. So that is indicated here in the highest percentile. Now imagine a particular journal belongs to 6 to 7 categories. In one that is in 95, in one it is in 80, in someone it is in 72. But always for the journal we consider the highest percentile for in Scopus database. So if this percentile is high, that means that is in the top range. Okay, so I believe you get some understanding about the site score. So if the site score is high, you can assume, okay, there is a high chance of getting your works also cited by other scholars when you submit it to a particular journal. However, it does not weight the citation quality. Okay, it does not weight the citation quality, but simply it says a quantitative value about the citations. And normally, these are not very strict interpretations. Just to explain how useful this site score is, I have made this one. So there is no such rule like these are low or moderate. To give an idea how to select a journal, I'm just giving these values. So if the site score is, and the other thing, these values might change depending on the domain as well. Okay, depending on the domain, there can be significant changes. Considering my domain, I have prepared these values. So in computing and engineering areas, normally, if the site score is less than 2, you can say, okay, that is a journal with some low impact. 2 to 5, it's like moderate, and 5 to 10, good journals, and more than 10 is very high impact. If I take the same example here you can see this is one of the strongest journals. Why? Because the site score is 22.4. Similarly, if you change the area to medicine or science, this is very less. Why? Because in the medicine and science, the site scores are above 100 for the high or top impact journals. But this is a really good site score in engineering and computing domain. This is the topmost journal which comes under civil and structural engineering. Okay, so that is depending on the domain as well. So when you are working on research, you might get an understanding, okay, what is the range for my domain? This range is for computing and engineering can also be applied. And there is another ranking which is SJR, Saimago Journal Rank. This evaluates qualitatively as well. It measures the prestige of citations, which means if your work is cited by good journal papers, or the if a particular article is getting cited by other scholars who have published in really good journals, then that increases the ranking or the value of SJR. So that is a weighted citation model, but still site score is also very reliable. This is more towards the quality, that is purely quantity. Okay, so this SJR, again, this is a basic guideline. If it is below 0.5, low influence, 0.5 to 1, that can be moderate, 1 to 2, good journals, and more than 2 means highly prestigious ones. Now, if we take the same one, so you can see the both ranking methods are aligning. If we take the Scopus index, the site score is very high, 22.4. And if we take the SJR, that is also more than 2. So it's it gives an indication, okay, this journal is reputed in both ranking systems. All right. So the other way you can determine whether the destination that you have selected to publish is good or bad is quartile rankings. This quartile ranking varies from Q1 to Q4. So Q1 comes as the top 25% journals in the field, and Q2 is 20. Now, so this top 25% in the field, all journals that comes under above 75 percentile, that belongs to Q1, and then from 74 to 50, that belongs to Q2, from 49 to 25, that is the Q3, and less than 25, that will be Q4. Still, although it's in Q4, if it is indexed in Scopus, that is a good indication that journal is okay and that is acceptable to be a destination for the publication. So there are but certain journals which are not indexed at all. We call them as there are a lot of predatory journals as well. Predatory journals in the sense like you submit your work, no peer review, within 2-3 days, you get the decision, okay, your paper is accepted, you need to pay this much and your work will be open to everyone. If you get this kind of a message once you submit to a journal, then that indicates the place that you have submitted is not sort of a good place to publish your work. So always try to avoid submission to these predatory journals as much as possible. So that is why we are having this kind of awareness session. So you have a basic understanding on how to select a journal to publish. It should not be done blindly. Now, if I say an example from my experience for my postgraduate studies, for my PhD actually, my professor, he never told me where to submit except the conferences. For all the journals, he never suggested me to, okay, you can go and submit to this journal. He always asked, what I always did was, I list down few journals and go and discuss with him. And then only he will ask me, okay, looking at these factors, we can go ahead with this particular journal. You need to do groundwork, come up with justifications why we need to select this journal, journal 1, 2, 3, and then only the supervisor can determine what is the most suitable one. So to do that, you need to have the basic understanding. That is what I'm giving today. Okay. So there are 3 metrics I discussed now: SITE score, SJR, and quartile rankings. You can use all these 3 and mix and match and come up with a better solution or better place to submit your work. Now, it doesn't mean depending on the metrics you can determine where to submit, but you need to remember the first few things we discussed as well. Come up with good keywords, analyzing the journal aims and scope, and then refer to recent articles of the same journal. Then only you come to this place where you analyze the metrics of the journal, right? Okay, so this is some sort of a comparison, but I already discussed. SITE score is about the quantity of citation. SJR is about the quality and prestiginess of the citations, and quartile is relative ranking. Among a particular domain, you determine, okay, this part is the top tier, second part is the moderate, average, and low, likewise. And using all these metrics together, actually it helps to come up with a good understanding about the quality of the journal. Right, that is one part. Now, the next important part is understanding the publishing models. This is also very important. Why? Because now this is very relevant to a country like us, because we are lacking in funds. In almost developed countries, they have a lot of research grants. They can publish, or they can pay and publish, but for us, it's a huge burden. There are facilities enabled by our institute as well, but still the amount to pay is increasing day by day. So it's very important for y'all to know this one, the publishing models. Mainly there are two types of publishing models, subscription based and open access. Now, why do you think it's important to know this even before the submission? Do you think it's important to have an understanding about it before submission? Yes. Why? Because there are some prestigious journals, but they go as open access. Imagine you submit your work, it gets accepted luckily, but still when it comes to publishing, we don't have funds to pay for it. It's not just like $100, $200 like that. It comes above 4,000 USD minimum. So that is why we need to think about the publishing model as well. No matter how much the journal fits for your work, no matter how much good your work is, still, if you can't accommodate the fee that they are asking for, then that is going to be a problem towards the end. So always before submitting, it's better to consider about this aspect as well. Okay, so subscription based publishing, we don't have to bother at all. Why? In subscription based publications, actually the author does not have to pay anything. Author does not have to pay anything. Most of the time, even we are going through the subscription base. The reason is, for the top quality journals, the publication fee is above 4,000 USD, and we don't have that much funding. So we always go for subscription based publishing. So whenever anyone needs to read our article, their institution needs to pay for it. Now, even SLIIT, we have that subscription facility for certain journals. For in elsewhere, IEEE, we have that subscription. So anyone who works here, they can access the subscription-based journals as well and get the content. But for some universities, they might not have, and there are certain other ways of getting these subscription-based publications. So we have to use any other method if we don't have subscription to a particular publisher, if the publication is published under this. So author does not have to pay. Authors, they do not have to pay even $1. We can publish freely, but the ones who are reading, they need to pay and read. And the next one is open access. So open access means the author needs to pay the article processing charge. They need to pay for the article processing charge. So these two questions, you will get two different answers for these two key questions when it comes to subscription and open access. Who pays for subscription? The reader pays for subscription, and in open access, the author's pays in open access. Who can access? In subscription, the ones who are with subscription, the ones who has paid for the subscription, they can read your paper if it is in this form. And if it is in open access, anyone can access your paper freely. They can download it, read it, and work on the work. So this is the difference. Now one can say limited accessibility and visibility for subscription model, yes, because only those who have the subscription would be able to read your article. But from my experience, now if I say, okay, so this is my profile. If I say this is the one of my most cited article, this is not a subscription. This is not an open access journal. This is a subscription one we published, the one which I discussed, sustainability, cities and society. So that's a subscription one, but still, see, it was visible and a lot of citations received. IET technical review, again, subscription based. But these two are open access. And after that, this is subscription. Most of the papers that or the articles that I have, they are subscription based ones. So it actually does not hinders the visibility that greatly, because most of the developed countries and most of the institutions in Sri Lanka also now, they are focused on getting these subscriptions for the institution. So you can't consider that as a disadvantage, because it allows us to freely publish our work. Okay, when it comes to this open access, there are few types. So one is gold open access. In gold open access, actually, the authors have to pay the full article processing charge, and that is common in full open access journal. Full open access journals are the ones like IEEE Access. They do not have any subscription model. All articles that are accepted by that journal needs to pay the article processing charge. So that is common for open access journals. Author pays it, and soon after publishing, it's available to anyone. So that's gold. Green open access means the author does not have to pay the article processing charge. Author needs to self-archive it, mostly in the institutional level, and they can make it available after an embargo period, which means there should be a period that acts as the subscription model. So the publisher may say, okay, you can make it public after 1 year. Till that, you can keep it in the institutional repository. And diamond open access, that is free for both authors and readers. No article processing charges. Generally, these kind of diamond open access ones are funded by institutions, grants, or society. So now, if we take a look at the Chinese universities nowadays, they have a lot of journals, like even under Elsevier, a high quality top tier journals. They are open access, but authors and readers, they don't have to pay anything. Why? Because the open access is facilitated by numerous Chinese reputed universities. So that is actually something good, because anyone in the world can access and anyone can publish in good journals. So this diamond open access, that is like very limited number of journals are there, but it's increasing nowadays. Right. Now we discuss about few publishing models as well. If you have limited funding, it's better you go for subscription model or check whether the journal is having green or diamond open access. If you need high visibility, then gold open access is the ideal one, but still it comes with a considerable article processing charge. Most of the time, the highly reputed journals, they comes with subscription and open access, both modes. The author can determine. If you think you don't have funding, you can go as subscription. If you have funding and you need high visibility, you can determine to go as open access. Okay, so these are some examples I want to share. IEEE access, this summarizes the everything I discussed today, the site score, SJR, quartile, and the publishing model. So if you consider IEEE access, it's like a good journal, good range journal, which is having site score of 6 to 7 in Q1, Q2 range and gives gold open access. But for us, I think if all the authors are from Sri Lanka, we have a discount for it, a considerable amount of discount. So it's good. And expert systems with applications, again, that's a computing domain journal, a very reputed one. So their SJR is also greater than 2 and site score is more than 10. So publishing, it is in hybrid form, which means you can have open access or subscription depending on the availability of your funding. So this is again another journal. Now I want to sum up. If you're planning to publish your work, what would be the decision framework? So as a summary, what you need to do is, first, you need to make sure the scope is aligning with the journal, and then confirm it is reputed and indexed either in Scopus or Web of Science. Make sure all these indexing are correct, because in certain journals, they mention Scopus indexed, but when you go to the Scopus sources, it's not listed under Scopus, maybe it's discontinued. Previously it was there, but not now. Likewise. So always, if you need to confirm Scopus indexing, do not rely on the journal page. Go to this one. Go to the Scopus page and then search it here. Okay, search the title here and then make sure whether it's coming under Scopus. After that, after confirming the indexing, then you can evaluate the journal for metrics. You can see what is the site score, what is the SJR, what is the quartile ranking, and then identify whether it allows hybrid publishing, open access, or subscription only. Determine what is the mechanism that you are going to follow, and then balance the ambition and acceptance probability. This is also very important. Sometimes there are good journals, highly reputed journals. Our works also fit for it. From the scope and the recent articles, we feel that it fits. But sometimes the journal acceptance rate is very low. So in that case, we need to make a critical decision where to submit depending on this aspect as well. Imagine like equal, some sort of like, let's say one journal is there uh, that is having acceptance rate of 5%. Another one is very close to the previous journal, but the acceptance rate is like 25% to 30%, let's say 20%. In that case, it is the responsibility of authors to determine what journal to be submitted. You can critically evaluate the quality of your work and then determine whether you're going to submit to the one with 5% acceptance or the one with 20 to 25% accept, because the review process, it's very lengthy. Recently, I got one article accepted, which I submitted in 2024. March, but the acceptance came in 2026 February. So almost 2 years. So uh, it was okay because the article was accepted, but imagine the worst, if it was rejected, then I lost it. It's like I lost 2 years because of that. So balancing the ambition and acceptance is also very important. So these are some common mistakes that we have to avoid. Chasing only the high side score. We do not need to follow the side score only. And it's very important to compare across different fields and determine. Now, if most of the time now the research are interdisciplinary. So you need to carefully determine what journal, because depending on the depth of the work, if it is mainly towards computing, you need to come up with a journal that suits for it. But if it is more related to science, then it's better to come up with a journal that focuses on science, likewise. And ignoring publishing model, which is you should never do, because that can cause a lot of problems towards the end. And submitting without scope alignment, that should not done. That will definitely come with a desk rejection. So my takeaway point is, the best journal is not the highest rank one. It is the one where your research fits, gets accepted, and gets cited. Okay, so with that takeaway point, I would conclude my session. If you have any questions, you can raise.